So guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope everything's good. So guys, we've got a fight that I wanted to talk about, and a fight that I think would actually be really good fight. A fight that doesn't get talked about probably enough, and it's about Golovkin and Benavidez. I think both guys' careers. Benavidez is obviously young. He's up and coming. He's a great fighter and a guy that I like a lot. Benavidez. I think he's a very good fighter. There's a lot of people that think Benavidez is the real deal. There's a lot of people that think he's special. There's a lot of people that think that Benavidez is he's the guy at 168, and they want to see Canelo fight him. They think he's the guy that Canelo should be fighting. And then there's Triple G, a guy that was a very dominant champion in his time. A very avoided champion. Nobody really wanted to fight him because he was very dangerous. Canelo initially probably ducked Golovkin because Golovkin was looking a beast and Golovkin was a bigger man. So Canelo probably waited, until, Golovkin wasn't, he was still a very top fighter, but a little bit on the slide. Canelo probably got him at the right time. Still, a lot of people thought the two fights were close. I personally thought Golovkin won the first fight. Second fight, I thought Canelo edged it and won it. But nevertheless, both very close fights and both very hard-fought contests. And Canelo really was tested in those fights and really put on the back foot. Golovkin had a style which showed that, Canelo, a lot of people thought that nobody could, apart from, there was only that Mayweather style that could beat Canelo. And there wasn't any other style. And Golovkin showed, well, there was another style. And that was, Golovkin being a massive puncher, a very physically strong guy, being able to put Canelo on the back foot and being able to make Canelo work for 3 minutes of a round and actually, putting Canelo in uncomfortable situations. Golovkin was an elite champion in his day and a guy that I think is probably, when you look back at his career, is going to be underappreciated because, I think he got the fights the wrong time of his career. He needed the big names earlier on to when he got them. And unfortunately, at the time, Cotto, Canelo eventually went on to fight him twice. And Golovkin was still good when Canelo fought him. So you got to give Canelo respect. But Cotto didn't fight Golovkin. And I think there was no shame in Cotto not fighting Golovkin. Golovkin was way bigger than Cotto. And Cotto was coming towards the end of his career. And Cotto had already made a lot of money. He was already, Hall of Fame champion. So really, when you think about it, Cotto didn't need to fight Golovkin. He had already done it all. He had already had a great resume and a great career. But I think that with Golovkin, I think there was times in Golovkin's career where he wasn't getting the fights and they say that he was avoided. And I get he was avoided, as I just mentioned. However, there was an opportunity for Golovkin to go to 168 and fight Andre Ward. And, he passed up on that opportunity. He didn't fight Andre Ward. Andre Ward was looking for that fight because Andre Ward didn't have dance partners. Andre Ward needed people to fight. And Golovkin would have made him a lot of money and it would have been a big name. Golovkin and Ward would have been a super fight because Golovkin at that time was building momentum and was somewhat of a huge name in America. People looked at him and said, how is anyone going to beat this guy? This guy's a beast. I remember here in the UK, Graham Souness, who's a football commentator, he went to a couple of his fights and he was talking with another boxer, I think, and he was saying, how are you going to beat this guy? He's invincible. Because that was the kind of aura around Golovkin at that time. Golovkin was seen as a beast. And nobody just thought that he walked through everybody. It's only when he fought Jacobs and when he fought Canelo, then he started slowing down. And then now he's become more mortal. And obviously he got beat by Canelo. And after that, he's, not looked as good as the Golovkin that we are used to knowing. But there were opportunities for Golovkin to go up to 168 and become great, have a great legacy. If he had managed to beat Andre Ward, oh my goodness, that would have put him on another level. But Golovkin, for me, I don't know why, for some reason, he's always stayed at 160 when you've got someone like Canelo jumping up and down the weights. And you think that, why couldn't Golovkin move up to 168? Forget 175. There was a time where there was call for Golovkin to move up to 175 to fight Kovalev. I'm not even saying do that, but there was an opportunity to fight Andre Ward. Now there's obviously There's fights out there. But the fight that I want to see, the fight that I would love to see would be Golovkin and Benavidez. I think it's a great matchup. But then I think about it, that Golovkin's not fighting Andrade, and they would be unification fights. Charlo, and they'd be unification fights. Now, I don't know whether that's Golovkin or it's just hard making those fights. I don't know what the score is there. Now, Benavidez is with PBC and Golovkin, so that fight would be hard to make. But I'm just thinking, a lot of people seem to think that Benavidez would beat Golovkin right now. He's too big, he's too strong, he's skilled, he's fast, and Golovkin wouldn't be able to deal with that. I somewhat, and Jim, I interviewed Jim the other day, and he also said that he feels that Benavidez will beat Golovkin, and I think he said by stoppage, I think. I totally disagree. I actually think Golovkin could beat David Benavidez. I actually think Golovkin would still beat David Benavidez. I think Gennady Golovkin is very physically strong, got a very good chin, right? And Benavidez, although he's a great fighter, and Benavidez has got very fast hands. He's very tall. He's got, he's a massive 168, and he seems skilled. He's a skilled fighter, very fast of hands, But one thing is Benavidez, he's a very big target. He's quite static. There's not a lot of head movement. And defensively, there are question marks around David Benavidez. And if you're defensively not great and you haven't got great head movement, someone like Gennady Golovkin, with his punch power, because let me tell you something, even Gennady Golovkin at 168, he'd be a strong guy. He'd be very powerful. His power would be still very dangerous up in that weight. And like I said, I believe that David Benavidez has been dropped before. Quite a heavy knockdown as well. He got dropped. And listen, in boxing, you can be dropped. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you talk about Golovkin and a guy, potentially having... I'm not saying Benavidez has got punch resistance issues, because you can be dropped in boxing. That doesn't mean you've got punch resistance issues. But when you're going in there with Golovkin, you're going in with somebody that's a huge power puncher. We're not talking about a guy, even a small chink in your armor in terms of your chin. Against Golovkin, it's going to be exposed. And I don't think it's so much of his chin. I think defensively and the not lack of head movement, I just think someone like Golovkin could be a problem. And the body shots. Benavidez being a bigger guy, there's more surface area, and the body shots could be a problem. And I still think at 39 years of age, if you were to ask me who wins that fight, I would pick Golovkin. I just think Golovkin's chin is so good. Even at this age, I don't see anyone stopping him. So is Benavidez is durable enough to be able to go 12 rounds, not get caught, not get hurt, be able to withstand Golovkin's punch power for 12 rounds? I'm not sure. Because like I said, defensively, there's question marks for me. And here's the thing with David Benavidez. David Benavidez has got great skills. He's got great ability. There's no doubt about it. His resume is yet to be tested. He's yet to face anyone elite like a Golovkin, or even be tested in the slightest, to be honest. Golovkin would be leapfolds, levels above anything that he's been in the ring with. And that would be the problem for David Benavidez. Can he make a huge jump from levels that he's been fighting at to jump and fight someone like Golovkin and overcome him with some of the weaknesses that we've seen in the fights that we've seen against the competition that he's been fighting? Because let's be honest, Golovkin, a lot of people think Golovkin's just a big puncher. No, Golovkin cuts off the ring very well. Golovkin's got great punch variety. He's just, for me, Golovkin's a very skilled fighter. He looks for openings. He looks for weaknesses. He's great to the body. And against someone like David Benavidez, that's going to be essential, because David Benavidez, like I said, he's a big guy, big surface area. There's, the body's going to be a big target. So as far as I'm concerned, I still would favor Golovkin, and I would favor Golovkin by knockout in that fight. I think Golovkin would be a problem for David Benavidez. I do. Because although David Benavidez is a very skilled fighter, and he has got pop, and he has got speed, I don't think he's got enough power to keep Golovkin off. And I don't think he's got enough power to hurt Golovkin and stop him. I know Derevyanchenko hurt, Golovkin, but that was to the body, and you can get caught with body shots. But let's not forget, that didn't kill Golovkin. Golovkin was still standing there. He didn't go down. He didn't get, he's still there. Benavidez is obviously, is Benavidez going to be too big, too strong? You know, is Benavidez going to be able to keep Golovkin at range? I'm not sure because, like I said, I think Golovkin's too skilled for somebody just to outbox him, and I just don't see it. I think Golovkin's a lot more skilled. And by the way, I think that Golovkin, although you would have had to make Ward a slight favourite, I don't think that the gap between the two guys was as wide, and I don't think that would have been as easy a fight for Ward as what people think. I think that would have been Ward's toughest fight, even though Golovkin was coming up from 160. I think that would have been Ward's toughest fight because I think he would have been the most skilled, right, the biggest puncher, and probably the most skilled fighter that Ward would have had to fight. Ward had to fight till date. Eventually, Ward faced that skilled fighter in Kovalev, and we saw that was a very tough fight. Now, Kovalev, I get it, was bigger, but Golovkin is also very skilled. Let's not forget, this is a silver medalist, isn't it? This isn't a guy that's just a wild puncher. People seem to think that Golovkin's some kind of wild banger. No, Golovkin's an elite boxer. You don't win the stuff that, you don't have the amateur record that Golovkin has and just be a basic guy. Come on. So, like I said, I think all the experience that Golovkin's got, amateur and pro, Golovkin's technical ability, and the weaknesses that I've seen in David Benavidez. And listen, David Benavidez right now is still unproven at that top level because, like I said, his resume is not great. He may shock us all, and he may outbox Golovkin. Who knows? But of what I've seen so far, I would favor Golovkin. I favor him by knockout. Honestly, I would still favor Golovkin by a knockout in that fight because Golovkin, he's still, for me, a top fighter, and I think he's been overlooked a little bit because, you know, of the fact that, you know, after his fights against Jacobs and Canelo, he hasn't really fought any top level guys, but he's won comfortably. Derevyanchenko, a lot of people thought he lost that one. That was a close fight, but Derevyanchenko is a very good fighter. Now, I think sometimes you can have a bad fight. You can have a bad fight. That doesn't make you a bad fighter. Motivational issues, there could be anything, you know, issues in his personal life, there could be anything. But the fact of the matter is, I think if the occasion was to be big, there was to be a big fight, I think Golovkin would turn up. And I still think Golovkin would beat most guys at 168 and 160. I actually think he would beat everyone. Some people think Charlo and Andre beat him. I disagree. I think Golovkin still beats them. I think Golovkin is a problem, massive problem for anybody. I just think he's been overlooked. I think he's because he's old and he hasn't really been fighting the top bracket guys. I think he's been overlooked. But when he does, I think you'll see Golovkin turn up and Golovkin cause those guys a lot of issues. But that's my take. Would you like to see this fight between Golovkin and Benavidez, and who do you have winning? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below, guys. And guys, remember to please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.